and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. And today, the second video of 2019, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 books of 2018. I've got 10 books here, all different ranges. Very excited about all of them, and all of them, when I went through the books that I give them 5 stars this year, these were the 10, 9 plus a little sneaky one, that I couldn't not include in my best books of 2018. I love filming these books, I love filming these videos, I love watching these videos, I love looking back on these videos and remembering how much I love it. By the way, I'm not normally this done up. If this is your first video and you're thinking, wow, there is some glamour on this channel, I'm just about to go out for New Year's Eve, so that's why I've got some sort of like velvet bodysuit on, and some like sort of glittery, I mean that deserves a frame to itself, doesn't it? It's gorgeous. So yeah, but anyway, let's get in with my 10 best books of 2018. We will start with something that I've never included before, and it's a cookbook. This is The Green Roasting Tin by Rukmini Iyer. This has been the book that I've used so much this year. Cookbooks, look, I've folded over pages. I've literally just made something from this. This is the best cookbook I think I've ever owned. And let me tell you, I am a massive Jamie Oliver fan. So this, I cannot recommend this enough. This is fantastic. It has a section about vegan food, a section on vegetarian food, and it's all stuff that you can just shove in one pot and stick it in the oven. It is amazing. All that the effort is involved in this is chopping, basically. I love it. We cook from it on the regular. As I said, we've cooked from it. We're going out for dinner tonight, and I've cooked I've cooked something to take round, and it's so easy because you can just take it in a pot. I have I've cooked 3 dishes from it the day before because my friend Emma and her family came round. I just love this book. It is quick, it is easy. I have not had anything in here which hasn't been delicious, and I mean delicious. David, who, I'm going to keep moving it from side to side. David, who is a massive meat eater, since I became vegetarian at the beginning of this year, I was a pescatarian last year, he has not complained once about missing meat out of a meal because he just loves everything in this book. It's fantastic. If you are looking to get into vegetarianism or you want to eat less meat, then I could not recommend this enough. It's fantastic. It's amazing. I love it. I think it's brilliant, and it's the best cookbook I think I've ever had. So do I need I say any more than that? No. The next book I've got is a book that I originally gave 4 stars, and I thought about it so much afterwards that I came back to re-rate it at 5 stars. What I should have said at the beginning of this video is I've put them in some sort of order. It's not a strict order, but my top 3 are definitely my top 3 books of the year, so I've sort of just worked through that way. The book that I gave 4 stars and then came back to is Almost Love by Louise O'Neill. This is Louise O'Neill's debut adult novel. Previously she's written YA fiction, and this I really enjoyed this. I read it earlier this year, and this follows Sarah, who is a school teacher and falls hard for an older man called Matthew, who treats her like complete shit. What I will say is, when I was reading this novel, it really highlighted some of the behaviour that I myself had received when I was much younger. Not now, not David, he's a good boy, isn't he? And some of the ways that Sarah acts are definitely some ways that I had acted on being treated badly by this chap. I thought it was amazing. It felt at points like I was actually reading my life. I really liked the fact they included quite a lot of sort of like text message exchanges in here. I absolutely flew through this. Text message exchanges, and then sort of like obviously just normal story writing. But yeah, I absolutely flew through this. I couldn't stop thinking about it when I stopped reading it, and I've lent it to quite a lot of people, and I just think it's sad that I can see a lot of me and girls that I know in this book, but the research that went into this and the writing of it is just, I've heard a lot of people say that they've seen themselves in here, and I think that is 2 things. 1, telling on how awfully women can be treated by men, and obviously vice versa, but in this instance women can be treated by men, and 2, that Louise O'Neill is a fantastic writer and can really get inside like a character's mind, and yeah, it just felt like I was there. I thought it was fantastic, and yeah, really enjoyed it. Might even listen to the audiobook of this year. Really enjoyed it. The next one, speaking of audiobooks, my number 8 book is an audiobook that I listened to this year. This is the proof copy. This is A Keeper by by Graham Norton. I read this towards the end of the year, and I've also included it in my my Christmas gift guide, so you might have heard me talk about this recently. Graham Norton is a Irish TV host based in the UK. I'm very fond of him. I think he's got a really great interviewing style. I think he's really funny. He used to be a stand-up comedian and a comedy actor, but he turned his he can do a bit of everything. I think he owns vineyards as well, but he started writing fiction a couple of years ago. I've read Holding by him, which I enjoyed, but A Keeper I thought was absolutely amazing. It's the sort of audiobook that I just couldn't I couldn't not listen to it. I was listening to it when I was at work. I was listening to it walking from place to place. I absolutely loved it. The storyline is fantastic. It follows a woman, Elizabeth, who returns to Ireland after her mother's death, and she finds some correspondence between her, like from a man who she believes to be her father. She's never had any contact with her father, and she doesn't recognise this woman in the writing as her mother, but she sort of looks into it, and then you also hear from her mother Patricia's point of view when she was getting to know the chap who is Elizabeth's mother, and she is in such a strange situation. I can briefly dip you into the situation that she goes into, but any more than that I would want you to like discover by yourself. And what it is that she's been writing these letters back and forth from this chap who she met on a Lonely Hearts column, and she goes to visit him, and she doesn't really have much of a good time, but there's a kiss at the end, and an accidental boob graze, and she goes back and thinks, oh well, we didn't really get on. He was a very quiet man. She didn't really have much in common with him, but the letters continue, and he makes this really big thing about this kiss that they had and this accidental boob graze, and makes it into a really like sensual sort of act. And she's like, oh, maybe I'll go back and see him. So she goes back to see him. When she goes to see him, they go to a bar, and again it's really awkward. There's not much talking, and she says to him, she hands out the newspaper to him, and she says, why don't you read me your horoscopes to sort of like pass some time? And he's like, oh no, I don't want to read the horoscopes. I don't want to read the horoscopes. And the chap behind the bar says, stop teasing him, you know he can't read or write. So who has been writing her these sensual letters and things like that? So yeah, fantastic. What I really loved about this was that the audiobook was narrated by Graham Norton. He does fantastic voices. As I said, he has worked as a comic actor in the past. I thought it was amazing as a performance piece as well as a book. I really loved the description in it, and I love books set in Ireland anyway, and the storyline, just all fantastic, and then performed by himself. Amazing. Really liked that very, very much. Number 7, 10, 9, 8, 7, God, I really should know these things, is a non-fiction book called Eat Up by Ruby Tandoh. This is a book that I read very, very early on this year, maybe even January or February. I think it was February. I think I read it in February, and this is great. This is a sort of a non-fiction book all about eating and food and people's relationships with food. Ruby Tandoh is sort of I became aware of her when she was on the Great British Bake Off a few years ago, which is a baking competition in the UK. I'm sure you've heard of it. And she also sort of has a Twitter account, but she's very active politically, and she was a journalist for the Times and things like that. And she's written this amazing book, which although it does have some recipes in it, the majority of it is sort of talking about food, talking about her relationship with food. She's had an eating disorder, so she covers that. She's also been vegetarian, she covers that. She talks about different countries and their relationships with food, and just sort of allergies, and just everything is covered in here. I love food, I love cooking, I love reading about food. Food fiction is some of my favourite fiction to read. I'm forever cooking dinners from scratch and following cookbooks and buying new cookbooks and doing all sorts. So this was a real treat for me. So as well as it being really interesting and about food, she's a fantastic writer. There's a really small section in there, which I mention every time I bring up this book, called An Ode to a Cream Egg, where she talks about carrying around this cream egg with her all day and feeling the weight of it in her pocket and really looking forward to eating it. And I just think she's absolutely fantastic writer. I can't wait to see what more is coming from her. But yeah, I really loved it. Really enjoyed it very much. And I read it alongside another book, which may or may not be appearing a bit later on. Book number 6, God, I gotta get, is Sarah Waters' The Paying Guest. The Paying Guest. I loved this. I read this in the summer. It's a real big chunker of a book. It's a historical fiction book set in 1922. when Mrs. Ray and her daughter Frances rent out some rooms in their home. From what I understand, the background is that Mrs. Ray's husband has died and they need a bit of money, so they've rented out these rooms to the paying guests, which is a couple called Lillian and Leonard, and they're a modern young couple, and they come to live in the flat, in the house, in a couple of the rooms. They've got a room for a bedroom and a bathroom, and I think they've got a lounge as well. They share a kitchen. All details, Lauren, details. The first half of the book is told as a sort of sensual love story between Lillian and Frances, which is like completely composed of stolen moments and misunderstanding each other, and just it's really sensual and urgent and fantastic, and this sort of secret love story, which I loved reading about. And then something happens literally like dead on halfway through. Something happens and this turns into a crime novel, and it's just the urgency of the love story and then the urgency of the crime, and the cover-up of the crime is just so compelling and so amazing. I've read a few Sarah Waters books in the past, but this has by far been my favourite. I just found it amazing, and I just feel like she builds characters and atmosphere so wonderfully. And I think if you're looking for historical fiction to get into, then this is a really great place to start. Please don't be put off by the size of it, because I could not stop reading. I could not put it down. I found it amazing and I loved it, and I'm looking forward to reading more Sarah Waters in 2019. I might even try to read all of her books in 2019. But thought it was absolutely amazing. The next book I've got is a book that I don't have my hands on because I listened to it on audio and I don't own the actual book, and that is Lethal White by Robert Galbraith. I agonised over whether I ended up giving this book 4 stars, and I thought, does it deserve a place in my top 10? And then when I was placing things, I was like, it absolutely does, because it's a book that I lived and breathed for about 10 days. It is a really big chunky book. It's from Robert Galbraith, who is the pen name of J.K. Rowling when she's writing this series of crime novels, which follows a private investigator called Cormoran Strike and his assistant Robin Ellicott. The first 3, there's 4 books, this was the 4th book. Each book has an individual case that they follow, but you're sort of following the timeline of Robin and Cormoran's life, and their sort of burgeoning friendship and potential relationship. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there, and I love the writing, and I love the cases themselves. I wouldn't have a bloody chance in hell of solving them, but they all come together so neatly at the end. But the real reason I'm there is for the Robin and Cormoran stuff, which I just love. And this book, as I said, was absolutely massive. I think it was something like 27 hours on audio, and I listened to it in the same way that I listened to A Keeper. I would get home and just sort of sit in the car trying to get to the end of an end of a chapter, or drive a long way home so that I could listen to it, because I just loved it. Now, I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I don't want to up that to 5 stars because there is a very good reason for that. And I guess if you don't want to know that, then just go away for a second, but I'll just explain it now. And that is that, as I said, you're following Robin and Cormoran's relationship, and the amount of time that goes by in this book, and the very small baby step that is taken in terms of Robin and Cormoran's relationship. You just feel like you wanted a little bit more. You can come back now, but that did not take away anything from my enjoyment of the book, how much I loved it, how much I lived it. My sister really put it well. She listened to the audiobook of it as well, and she said that she didn't want it to end because she felt like she was helping them solve the crime. And I just felt in it. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was amazing. Book number 4 is This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay. This is a book that I read earlier this year and thought it was amazing, as I've done with all of these books. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was touching. I work in the NHS myself. I work for a diabetes centre. I look after a team of doctors and nurses, and I have a lot to do with junior doctors. And this is a diary of Adam Kay's life as a junior doctor from the very beginning of literally just leaving medical school to becoming a few months away from becoming a consultant. So it's a big period of time that's covered in a diary. He writes hilariously and fantastically, and it is no surprise to me that this man is now a scriptwriter, because he's just got a way of just he can write such a humorous short little sentence which will reduce me to absolute giggles. David a few times knocked on the door of the bathroom and said, "Is everything all right in there?" because I was like howling with laughter. There are touching moments in this, but there are real moments in this, and having worked for the NHS, I feel like maybe I got a little bit more out of it. A lot of people who I know that have worked for the NHS and read this have said the same, that they really felt it. There is just hilarious moments in there, and I just thought it was amazing. I really loved it, and I would just love more and more, and I think I'm going to go back. I might even listen to a lot of these on revisiting my favourite books from this year. I'm thinking, oh, I might listen to the audiobook of that this year. I might listen to the audiobook because I want it again. I want it again, but I want to try it in a different way. So thought it was amazing, really hilarious, amazing writing, just fantastic. It brings a smile to my face even just thinking about it. So these now are my top 3 books of 2018. As I said, I've put them in, I've put all these books in a sort of order, but I feel like if you got me on a different day, maybe they would be in a different order, but these are definitely my 10 favourite books of the year. So at number 3 is the book that I mentioned earlier that I read in conjunction with Eat Up, and that is Big Bones by Laura Dockrill. Big Bones is a YA book, a genre that I do not read much of, but absolutely love this. And this follows Bluebell, who's known as BB or Big Bones, and her, it's a food diary that she's been asked to keep by a nurse as she's got asthma and she's considered overweight. She also wants to leave school and start an apprenticeship, and she's asked by the nurse to keep a food diary in order to get on top of her asthma and to prove that she's completely capable of leaving school and things like that. So what starts as a food diary then becomes a sort of a memoir, almost a memoir for a fictional character, where she writes about different foods. So each chapter is about a different food. For example, here, honey, bumtills, that's not about a food, melting panini, cherry drops, and each food relates to a memory that she's got of her childhood or something that's happening in her life at the moment. Bluebell is the body positive girl I needed and I still need now to listen to. She is a fantastic character and role model. She takes no shit. She loves herself and she isn't afraid to say so, which is something I was really taught as I was younger, when I was younger, that you should never enjoy your own body or think that you look nice or something like that. And she just adores herself, which I absolutely love in her. This made me feel so many different things because I felt so much joy for knowing that there is material like this out there for young girls, and even for me now as a 32-year-old, I learned so much from this book, and I adored it. It's hilarious. It's got wonderful family relationships in there. It's a bit of romance. It's sad. It's happy. It's everything, and I just adored it. And I would love for every girl out there to read this, because I really feel like there's something in it for everyone. And yeah, I loved it. So as I said, I read it in conjunction with Eat Up, which just, I sort of picked them up at the same time. They look quite similar in cover as well, so I picked them up and was just sort of like reading like a couple of chapters of this and then a chapter of this, and it was just the perfect combination. I just thought they were fantastic together. But yeah, really love this. If you know if you know young girls, like if you know teenagers or anything like that, like I said, I got so much from this. I thought it was amazing. I loved it. I feel quite emotional about how much I did love it. Book number 2. Now, I've only got the proof copy of this, but I'm sure a lot of this will be mentioned in a lot of people's best books of 2018. And that's Normal People by Sally Rooney. I picked this up when I was on holiday earlier this year with David in September, and I read it over about 2 days because I just could not put it down. Now, I've read Sally Rooney before. I've read Conversations with Friends and didn't love it. So sort of come to this, got sent the proof unsolicited, and sort of read it just because it was coming out that month and I took it away on holiday with me. Once I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. I feel like I've sort of had this chat with a few people. It felt like I was watching a play. These characters are so well engineered and so well described that I felt like I was there with them, watching them. I love the way it's set out. So it follows two characters, Marianne and Connell, who are from different ends of the sort of social spectrum. Marianne is from quite a wealthy family, and Connell's mother works as Marianne's family's cleaner, so that's the sort of relationship. They know each other from school. In school, Connell's very, very popular, and Marianne is not, and then when they go to university, the roles sort of switch. You follow their friendship and their love and their relationship throughout a long time. So each chapter would swap perspective and move along quite a significant amount of time, so you're getting these sort of snapshots, but I could just see it so perfectly, and I could feel these characters growing older and changing or not changing, and I adored it. I absolutely adored it. So it's something that also, something I didn't like about Conversations with Friends is that these books don't have much punctuation in terms of speech and things like that. It's all very read, yeah, there's no punctuation, so that's something I do not like in a book, but it fits so perfectly in this book. I just thought it was fantastic and I adored it, and it's made me want to go back to Conversations with Friends and reread that and see if I feel any differently about that. But thought it was fantastic. If you haven't read it yet, please read it. It was Waterstone's Book of the Year, completely deserved. Felt like it was amazing. I think on any other day maybe this would have been my favourite book of the year, but it's a different day and something else is my favourite. So yeah, loved it. So my favourite book of the year, guys, you may well have all guessed, it's something that I've been really going on about this year since I read it, and it's just been a real gift to me, a real gift, and it's Nevermoor, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I also have the second book, which is Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow, which I could include in this, but if we're talking about my best books, and this is the best book I've read this year, I love this. I think this is sort of filled not my Harry Potter shaped hole, but has sort of made has dulled the lines of my Harry Potter shaped hole. This follows Morrigan Crow, who is a cursed child and is cursed to die on her 11th birthday. But on her 11th birthday, she's rescued by a man called Jupiter North, who whisks her away to a place called Nevermoor, where she's told that she will take place in these trials to join the Wondrous Society. The trials themselves are bright and fantastic and cinematic and described so fantastically. There's amazing characters in here. There's a magic cat who speaks. There's a vampire dwarf. There's amazing bits about Christmas and Halloween and food, and Jupiter North himself as a character is just amazing. And you can, I cannot wait. It's one of those books that I'm reading thinking I cannot wait for this to be made into a film, because I think it's all here. There's no, it's all written in there and you can imagine it so beautifully in your mind. I loved it. I love the story. The second book for me is a sort of a filler book. I gave it 4 stars just because it wasn't as much as, I didn't enjoy it as much as this. So it's sort of like leading on. I can't tell you what happens in the second book because otherwise you'll know what happens to this book. So it's sort of leading on, but this was a real gift and really enjoyed it. So I hope, so I know it's a bit Marmite on BookTube. I've seen a few people not really loving it, but no, this I just found it was amazing. So those are my best books of 2018. Oh, it feels nice to have done that. I would love to know what your best books of 2018 are. What book, if any of them are any of these books. Did you love these books? Did you hate these books? Want to hear all about your favourite and worstest books. I hope you're all having a lovely 2019 so far. I am now going out to celebrate because I'm filming this in the past, and I will see you all again soon for another BookTube video. Goodbye!